If you could put a message in a bottle to be read at the 100-year anniversary, which both probably won't be there, unfortunately. maybe.
I might be.
Maybe. Maybe. What message in a bottle would you want to be read there for the pig vets in the room?
If I could put a message in a bottle for the pig vets in the room 50 years from now at the 100th AASV meeting, it would be to stay true to your principles, always do right by the pig, be proud of what we do, share our message, and feel good about what you're doing for the pig, for producers, and for our community.
I am going to switch my page just a second.
Is it going okay?
You're doing great.
Okay.
Absolutely. I'm using you to help me with some cleanup since you're one of our last interviewees. So, because we're
these
doing.
Are the questions. I'm getting the questions that other people haven't answered.
That's right. We did the emergency technology, conducting effective. When you think of an effective outbreak investigation, what are the key components that you found personally to be important?
The key components to an effective outbreak investigation have been spanning, being at the farm and talking with people and understanding what's really happening, whether it's, in the middle of the night or on the weekends or just things that happen on a day-to-day basis that people just take for granted. So starting there, but then all the way too of looking at things that we hadn't considered before. So, feed ingredients have been a big thing recently that we've had to develop better ways of tracking and looking into risk factors with feed ingredients. So not being afraid to ask the hard questions and, turn over all the rocks, whether we think it's a problem or not, is important to an effective response.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. When you think of leadership and being a pig vet, gosh, there's no better person than the president of AASV to give us a quote on leadership. What leadership style why is leadership important when developing effective relationships?
Leadership's important in developing effective relationships because it helps reduce the friction with implementing change. One of the things that I've learned to appreciate more and more in my business is just expressing gratitude, thanking people for, the little things that they do every day, making sure that they feel important, that what they're doing is fulfilling a greater goal. Also, helping people with issues or challenges that they're dealing with without solving it for them has been a big thing in my business or in my practice or with working with production systems. It's easy to fall into that trap of just providing the solution, whereas it's probably more effective in the long run if we can teach people how to work on or solve their own problems, giving input, technical input when needed, or helping them tweak things, but not just fixing the problem for them.
Over the years, it's not uncommon for us to encounter a nutritionist veterinarian joke along the way. I think the last seminar I was at showed a pig on the road with a tire track through the middle of the pig, and he's obviously not well. And the veterinarian's looking at the pig, and he says, "Well, I think that it was the nutritionist that caused this." Right?
Yeah.
How has the relationship between nutritionists and veterinarians evolved over time?
So I think the relationship with nutritionists and veterinarians is developed a lot over time, and I think in the swine industry we're as good as any at integrating those two professional inputs in a productive way. In my practice now, I get to see how some of the dairy nutritionists and vets and some of the beef nutritionists and vets work, and I think, we joke about it, but I think really we're doing a really good job. A little bit of the professional jest is, I think, in tongue-in-cheek or done really to kind of keep us humble. But I think overall we do a really good job of that.
Good, thank you. Can you think of a disease or situation where we didn't have the diagnostics we needed to properly solve it, and how did it feel once we had the right diagnostics?
So I think every new disease that we've encountered, we've had challenges with having the right diagnostic tools available quickly. In the beginning of my professional career, it was with PRRS, and we've come a long ways with that. One example from that would be when the European or Lillystad virus was here, and our PCR test didn't recognize it. So there were a lot of farms and boar studs that got infected with that virus, unbeknownst to us at the time, that we later were able to find out were positive. Circovirus was a challenge for us for a lot of years, where the PCV2 antigen was present in our swine farms, but it didn't seem to be causing a lot of disease, and so it was a little bit of a red herring in the beginning of was it a disease or not. PED is a great example of not having the right diagnostic tests at the early part of the break, but I think we did do a good job of getting those available relatively quickly once we knew what we were dealing with.
And now we have the Swine Health Information Center, and one of their initiatives is to develop diagnostic tests for emerging diseases before we have them. What does that mean to us and the future pig vets to have an organization working on those tests proactively?
I think it's real important that we proactively have or develop diagnostic tools, or figure out how we access those tools in quick order, if there were a problem. So African swine fever has been a good example here recently of, the tests we have and the tissues that are tested probably aren't the best ones that we're collecting on a day-to-day basis to test. So having people like Pat Webb and Dr. Sundberg working on, getting the approvals to test other tissues or other, say oral fluids that haven't been approved matrices for those new diseases is really important.
It's tough batting cleanup, Scanlon.